joining us today for our 33rd presentation of our Launch and Learn webinar series on current and diverse topics. And like we say here, actually, we have a very interesting webinar today with friends from Brazil. So I'm gonna say bon dia to all our audience in the US, and actually bon dia to all our audience in Brazil, and boa tarde to our audience here in the US. This webinar will be in English. Esta presentación será en inglés. I'm saying this because usually we have presentations also in Spanish, but we are going to be considering having it in Portuguese. We're going to start practicing our Portuguese for the next round of webinars with our friends from Brazil. Today, we continue a series of webinars in partnership with CAMACOL, the Latin American chapter of commerce of the US, aiming at strengthening our Ibero-American brotherhood and extending our commercial relationships. This fourth webinar, which we're doing in partnership with CAMACOL, we have representatives of the President of CAMACOL, and also representatives from the Chamber of Commerce of Sao Paulo, Brazil. For those ones who are joining us for today for the first time, my name is Jorge Zumaeta, but since we are doing it with our friends from Brazil, I'm gonna say my name is Jorge Zumaeta, and I'm the Senior Director of Academic Planning and Accountability, Continuing Education and Dual Enrollment at Florida International University, FIU. I'm gonna follow up with a couple housekeeping rules for this webinar to assist us with the flow of and the dynamics of the webinar. First of all, I need to let you know that this webinar is being recorded. Second, all your microphones are muted. You are welcome to ask any questions by using the chat or the question tool located at the bottom of your screen. Also, at the end of the webinar, a message will come up thanking you for participating in this webinar, but asking you to please also participate, complete a survey, a brief survey, providing us the feedback regarding the content of this webinar, which give us an idea of how things when, and also provided us the contact information to help you, to give you more information about future events. With this, I would like to turn it to Commissioner Willie Gort so he can introduce our panelists. Willie?
Thank you, George. It's a pleasure to introduce our panel today. It's an honor for me to do so. First, we're going to begin with the CAMACOL, the representative of CAMACOL, United States, Joe Shi. Joe Shi is the president of the Latin American Chamber of Commerce of the United States, better known as CAMACOL. He's an entrepreneur and economic development, specialized in international business sector with extensive experience in Europe, Asia, and Latin America. During his career, he has represented various governmental entities on an honorary basis in many diplomatic, cultural, and commercial areas. His 30 years track record is in food, industrial product, industrial material, energy, mining sector has positioned him to act as a multilateral bridge between the commercial, diplomatic, and cultural community in the United States, Asia, Europe, and Latin American region. Locally, Joe has tackled complex socially responsibility issues, socioeconomic development for disadvantaged, welfare, unemployment, and nutrition. Joe Shi. Now I'd like to introduce Representative Federal de Comercio de Bens, Servicio Turismo do Estado de São Paulo, FeComercio. Fabio Pina, FeComercio Economic Advisor, graduated in economics from FEAA, USP, and Business Administration from the University of Mackenzie, and postgraduate in political and economics from PUC SP. Expert in microeconomics and statistics, work as the Undersecretary of Commerce and Services for the Ministry of Economy between 2019 to 2020. Partner of Scopus Consultoría Análisis y Pesquisa LTDA. Next, we're going to have the Representative Federal de Comercio de Bens, Servicio y Turismo del Estado de São Paulo, FeComercio, Andrés Saconato. FecomercioSP Economic Advisor, member of the Business and Political Economic Council of the institution, PhD in Economics, Government and Relation, and Business Environment, MBA, Professor FIT. And that now I pass it on to my colleague, Dr. Jorge Zumaeta. Thank you, George.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie Gort. It's always a pleasure to have you and to interact with you. You bring such a special touch to these events. And just want to recognize you from being the mastermind behind these webinars and the interaction with chambers of commerce from abroad. Thank you very much. I think we need our colleague, President Joe Chi on camera as well. Joey, can you turn on your camera, please? Let me cover a little bit of the dynamics, some of the specifics, guidelines for this next round of our webinar, which is specifically about the questions, the Q&A. So I want to say that there's about, we have a few questions, 5, 6 questions. I will incorporate some of the questions from the audience as they come along and as I say fit. Also, I will allow about 4 to 5 minutes per answer, per panelist. And every time that we're approaching the mark of the 4th minute, I will bring up a little card. I mean, like in soccer, we have the red and the yellow, remember when somebody's playing soccer, but we have here in our CAMACOL FIU webinars, we have the orange card. So as we are approaching that, the mark, that 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes, I will bring up the orange card, which indicates that we are running time, short in time in terms of the time allocated for the answer. Prior to embarking on the questions for our panelists, I would like to go around and invite you to share a little bit of our experiences, in just a few minutes for each of the panelists to tell us, in terms of a little bit of context and the relationship context that we have between the US and Brazil. Let me start by going to our President Joe Chi. You shared with us that they're having a few delegations, commerce delegations coming to Brazil and potentially planning near the future as soon as we regularize to come and visit Sao Paulo. Will you tell us a little more about your experience with Brazil, President Joe Chi?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Jorge. Thank you very much. At the same time, I'd like to welcome Fabio and Andres to this webinar. Hopefully they can come to Miami soon, but we are dying. We are dying to go to Brazil. I had such a wonderful time on our last mission in Brazil. Like I explained to Andres and also Fabio, when we went to Brazil, we went, of course, to your city, Sao Paulo, for business. But after we finished our business and we did all of our governmental and diplomatic relationships with your government as well, we went over and we took a little holiday. We went over to Rio de Janeiro. And that was beautiful too, because we're able to relax after so much work that we did over in Sao Paulo. And like I said, and along with our Commissioner Willie Gort, who's been to Brazil several times, we are dying to go to Brazil and hope to see you very soon.
Awesome. Thank you very much, President Chi. Let me bring Mr. Andres Conato and a few words for our audience, please.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Jorge. Thank you, Millie. Thank you, Will, for the invitation. Thank you, CAMACOL, for the opportunity. I think it's so important to say something about our relationship between United States and Brazil. I think the word that can really reveal our relationship is complementarity. We have some things that the United States needs, and the United States have a lot of things that we need here. So it's so important to strengthen the relationship between us in terms of trade, in terms of education, in terms of commerce, in terms of industry. We have a lot of things to do together. So it's so important to be here. So I would like to thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to say something about our relationship and our economic links that we can strain here. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Dr. Saconato. We go back to Mr. Fabio Pina. A few words for our audience, Fabio.
First of all, good afternoon to everyone. It's very important to be here to strengthen our ties, which are very strong, actually. Some remarks: Brazil, China and US are the biggest partners to Brazil. It used to be only US, but China it is a huge partner, a commercial partner to almost in every country in the world. Brazil has a very tight history with US. For instance, it's not so common in the world to have presidentialist regimes, and we both have. We are huge countries. Brazil is almost from sea through shining seas, as you are. And we have, as you do, 10 or 20 Brazils inside the same country. Each and every region is very different and has its peculiarities. And we have to deal with different countries inside our country, as you do. So the relationships between Brazil and the United States are much more the relationship between São Paulo and Florida, São Paulo and New York and Rio de Janeiro, and so on. Probably prior to there is no relation, a single relation between Brazil and the United States. And we're here to try to explain and understand much more of it. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Wonderful, wonderful presentation, Mr. Pina. Let me put the icing on the cake. Let me bring our commissioner, our dear friend, Mr. Willie Gort. And seems like we heard prior to embarking on this webinar today, we in the little chat that we have prior to our session, I heard that there was a few delegations led by you and the President of CAMACOL to Brazil. Can you give us a little bit of context in terms of our relationship with Brazil?
Sure. The most important is what we established in the Hemisphere Congress to do, especially what we're doing today. Have communication among ourselves, the business people, the educationals, and bringing thoughts and ideas together, one-to-one basis. Our trip to, we spent about 3 days in there. We had different meetings with Chamber of Commerce from Brazil and from business people from Brazil. And we had some kind of a business exchange, people talking to each other. I know with today technology, we can do a lot of things, but I think it's very important when people get to meet personally and talk to each other, especially among ourselves, the Hispanics and the Latins. We all like to race and talk to each other. And that was very important. The exchanges that we had a lot of exchange of business cards. People follow up later on, and that's the most important. After the seminars and that we get together, the follow-up is the most important. The people you have contact with, continue to have the contact, and ideas and business will come up. And we can have a lot of exchange in culture and in business-wise, which is so important to keep going. And I love the experience we had. Like Joe stated before, São Paulo is great. It produces most of the market for Brazil. But then when you go to the Rio, you get to relax and you get to enjoy. So you can do the both. Very similar to Miami Beach, and so on. So it's a great experience. This type of exchange is what helps the community to move and people to do international business. So I want to thank all of you.
Thank you for all to all the panelists for that introduction, and I find it motivating. And without any further ado, let me start with the questions. Let me go first to our President CAMACOL, Yoshi. From a business point of view, what are the competitive advantages, of your country?
Competitive advantages of the United States, of course, is it is the largest economy of the world. It is also has a very very good rule of law legal system in which contracts which are entered into you are fairly you have a fair expectation of them being delivered, and at the same time you also have the ability to be able to redress any grievances, not only in the colloquial manner, but also in the legal manner as well, if it's necessary. Hopefully it's not necessary, but of course it feels comforting to be able to know that you have that basis as well. Being about the size of the economy, it is very interesting because especially during starting from the time of the pandemic, where the economic stimulus was being released into the economy to prop up and also to keep the U.S. economy functioning. This also became a very interesting advantage recently. Where I was watching the news, possibly by the time the end of the year comes, the U.S. government would have released anywhere from $5 to $6 trillion into the economy. And then if you combine this with the private sector, you're talking about another $4 to $6 trillion going in, complementing what the government has done as well too. And this makes for a huge opportunity, I would say, for Brazil and also for the rest of Latin America, especially with the emphasis nowadays on readdressing the supply lines and at the same time the nearshoring concept. And I believe that this will be a great opportunity because especially with Andres, he was talking about the complementarity of our economies. There's a lot of stuff that Brazil is able to do for the United States. Brazil being such a sophisticated economy, they produce anywhere from agriculture to private jets, Embraer. So, I believe that there's a lot to do.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chi, President of CAMACOL. Let me follow up with Dr. Andres Aconato. The same question from the business perspective. What are the competitive advantages of your country? What can you share with our business owners here in Miami, in Florida, in the US, and our students that are finishing their business degrees that would like to start thinking about investing internationally, opening a new business internationally? Why they will be thinking about Brazil?
Of course. Thank you for the question, Georgie. First of all, I would like to comment about agro-industry and commodities. We are in the middle of a huge cycle of commodities, and it's clear that Brazil is one of the most productive countries in terms of agro-industry, pecuary, and why not oil and gas, talking about Rio de Janeiro. After that, I think it's important to keep in mind that this sector, the commodities, will boost a lot of other sectors. For example, services and tourism. As soon as the pandemic be controlled, the tourism, for example, probably will flourish as an important source of income and employment. Besides that, it's important to remind that we have a strong transformation and manufacturing industry in the states of South and Southeast, mainly in food and transformation industry. That is probably this industry will combine it with the commodities, and will have a huge potential of growth and of employment and new business. And it's important to remind that our agro-industry is really technological automated. It's not how can I say, it's not intensive in labor, it's intensive in capital, So it's important to say that there is a space to new companies, for example, to technological companies, to try to create some unicorns and something like that. And for São Paulo, for example, our state has 3 state universities among the best of Latin America. and a lot of technological and in the polos in the inland cities. The inland cities, São Paulo, are so rich, are so productive. So I think this sector, the commodities, will allow us to develop a lot of other sectors. And now Brazil is very cheap in dollars. It's easy to come to here because, for example, a good restaurant here, you can eat for $10 or $20 in a good restaurant, just to do an example. And a good wine is like $30 here, the good wine, the very good wine. So Brazil is cheap today. It's the time to invest in Brazil. The time is right now. Thank you.
So Andre, just a follow-up question. So you're talking is cheap in terms of the exchange rate, dollar to Brazilian dollars so do you happen to know what's the exchange rate right now? I mean, I can Google, but I just wanted to get a perspective on that.
Of exchange rates, you say?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now, for example, the exchange rate is 6 reais for $1. And the perspective, I think it's to stay in 5 for 8 to 5 until the end of this year. But it's more or less 6 to 1 today.
Thank you.
With,
Thank you for
the tax and the tourism exchange rate. The official is 5.3.
And I imagine this is across the nation, no? It's not just in Sao Paulo. Most likely, I mean, these savings that could be encountered due to the exchange rate maybe experience in different parts of Brazil.
And just to know, São Paulo is the most expensive state in Brazil. If you go, for example, for Northwest, it's even cheaper than São Paulo because of the relative prices there the prices are low than São Paulo. São Paulo it's more or less like New York City. You have the same relationship between Brazil, São Paulo, and other states. São Paulo is like New York City in terms of price.
Understood. Thank you very much for putting that into perspective, Dr. Saconato. With that, let me go to Mr. Pina, and let me see if I pronounce that correct, from the Federação do Comércio.
It's almost like that. Federação
almost
do Comércio. Like yeah, you did well. You did well.
Thank you. So let me ask you the first question. Let me pose to you the same question. I mean, what from your perspective, what kind of competitive advantages do you distinguish? What can you share with a business that would like to expand or start a new business in Brazil?
Well, being the last one, there's little left for me, but I'm going to try to. I have some remarks here, and I was changing the remarks as we go, as Mr. Chi and Mr. Saconato was talking about. I was trying almost to answer or to complete their answer. So some of our answers, some of my answers are going to be quicker than 3 minutes. But first of all, Brazil has 210 million people living here with an income rate that is a mid-income rate. So it's a huge market. Mr. Chai said United States is the first economy in the world, the biggest economy in the world. China is the second. Brazil is among the 10 biggest economies in the world. It depends on the exchange rate. Right now it's the 9th, I guess, 9th or 10th. It used to be 5th or 6th the biggest economy in the world. So it's a huge market. Mr. Chai said something about the rule of law. We're enhancing our rule of law right now. We have the civil law, you have the common law, which is better to do business, the common law. But we're trying to keep up with the common law right now in Brazil. We're trying to understand how it works, how flexible it is, and how better to do business than the civil law, that it has to be, everything has to be written and done exactly as the same menu. So we now are convinced that the common law is better. And this is an other advantage to do business with the United States, because we are trying to understand how you do business, how you operate under the rule of law and the common law. This is very important. And there are other aspects that I had to add. Brazil is a very complex and complete economy, as André told. It's we have people living as in the worst countries in the world, and no technology at all. But we have some islands of technological in the first state of law, the state of art. I'm sorry, the state of art technology places, and we got a very good labor pool with some really good skills, as André told, 3 major universities in São Paulo. But in Brazil, we have some other good formation universities and courses. We have everything to do or redo in infrastructure in Brazil, which is, for the short term is a problem. For the long term, who is thinking about the long term as Americans do, it is a huge opportunity. And I guess for you to understand better what we have to do in Brazil, we actually are almost in the same page as US right now. All the airports, all the bridges, all our trains and ports we have to redo, remake, rebuild. So you have this problem, I guess. We heard that, we saw that on the presidential campaign, that you're gonna have to rebuild some of the airports you have. It's the same opportunities. The size, the scale is much bigger in the US, but it's the same kind of opportunity. It's not a threatening thing, it's an opportunity. And that's how I see are complementary, and the opportunities to do business in Brazil. It's a huge market for, if you wanna have people buying your products, and it's even better if you wanna invest here in Brazil to be a part of the growth and the infrastructure rebuilding that we have to do in the coming years.
Thank you. Wow, I mean, I just have different follow-up questions, but because I mean, thinking about somebody that wants to import into Brazil from, so they will have to touch base with an entity like yours, and that will be the follow-up question that is coming up. But like you were indicating, we're talking about a market that has different. The complexity of the Brazilian market is such that there's multi-layers and different locations, different central points from the north to the south, and but perhaps the entry point will be Sao Paulo, no?
Sure it is. Sure it is. It's not only São Paulo, but first of all, we have some experiences here with the American entrepreneurs and Europeans that comes from Brazil. And I have to say that Europeans have had more success in Brazil. I can remember a lot of European companies that are doing very well in Brazil, and a lot of Americans that probably, I don't know why, didn't understand the Brazilian culture and Brazilian consumer. Some of those, I can give an example. Coca-Cola, for instance, is very likely, very huge in Brazil. McDonald's is very huge in Brazil, but Walmart is not. It's not fit for Brazilians. I don't know if you're following. So the first thing you have to do is to understand the market, to research the market. And a very good point to start is São Paulo, which the state of São Paulo is more than 1/3 of the Brazilian market, producing and consuming. And at the city of São Paulo is almost 10% of Brazil, of the whole market in Brazil. 10% is in São Paulo, so it's a very nice starting point.
Thank you, Mr. Espina. That puts a lot into perspective. for any business strategists that, once again, would like to expand or start a new business in Brazil. Let me go to Mr. Chia. Joe, you want to say something? I mean, or no?
No, no, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for
Yes,
your
yes.
question.
Yes, I just want to follow up with something that you said. You indicated about the trillions, the massive investment that has been poured from the federal government into American society, into our country, in order to alleviate the challenges of the corona crisis. But in addition to that, there's some other incentives to help businesses. So you were saying that there is opportunities because of this funding, there may be opportunities for companies from Brazil that can maybe partner with companies from CAMACOL, let's say. Can you expand on that a little bit more, please?
Yes, yes. I would like to explain that not only is there that opportunity in the United States, but when you were talking about importing and exporting, it's importing and exporting is a two-way street. The world has become so complex that not only do you import products, but you're also importing ingredients and materials back and forth. And it is this complexity of this situation which can benefit not only the United States in terms of investment and not only Brazil in terms of investment, because what happens is that in order to have a product ready, you you need ingredients from Brazil, you need ingredients from other places in the world, you also need ingredients and software from the United States. So in this complementarity of process, one of the things that I suggest is, of course, that people in America here, they need to learn more about being able to understand the Brazilian culture and how to do business in Brazil. And at the same time, not only do we have to do that, but at the same time, Miami is specifically very well placed to do that, because Miami being basically a gateway to Latin America and like basically like an unofficial capital towards Latin America, with its logistics and thousands of flights going in back and forth every week. We are culturally well placed and well adapted to be able to deal with Brazil. So one of the things that we at the Chamber believe that we can do is we can be of great help to American businesses who would like to do business in Brazil, because for a long time, I would say last 40 something years, through the Hemispheric Congress, which is being presided by Commissioner Willie Gort, we had a concept called the Sanchez to Smith. And then the Sanchez to Smith concept was basically, you have a Mr. Smith in the United States who wants to understand what to do with a Sanchez in Latin America. So they go to a Sanchez here in Miami and say, hey, Sanchez in Miami, see what you can do to help me connect with Sanchez in Latin America or in Brazil, for example. And that's where Miami's comparative advantage comes into play.
Thank you, Joe Chief, for expanding on that. With that, let me start with you, and then I'm gonna go to Mr. Pina, and then go to Dr. Saconato after that, to give him a chance to Mr. Pina to answer first. But let me ask you, which are the entities that a business should contact to establish business in your country? What services that your chamber provides?
First of all, Federação do Comércio, for sure. We are here to help you to do business, actually. We have a lot of contacts in all the branches of government, good contacts. We're well known and well respected, for sure. But if you're thinking of doing business in Brazil and you don't have any first point of contact, I suggest you to look for the chambers for Federação do Comércio, and also to people that can help, such as law specialists, bilateral or multilateral chambers of commerce, embassies, entities as FecomercioSP. Then the second step for me, one has to research the market, to understand the market. First of all, the culture. As I told, Walmart is not the Brazilian taste. It doesn't fit with Brazilians. But why? Brazilians are not accustomed to buy huge amounts of stuff. We're more in the retail than in the wholesale, and Walmart is much more competitive in the wholesale than in the retail. If they did know that first, probably they would have a success in Brazil with a different operation, with adaptation of the operation. So that's why I insist, you have to reach for people that understand Brazil, that try to understand your business as well, and then to connect the parts, to connect the partners. And remember, Brazilians are Latins. We have, people think that we are informal because we do business at lunch. This is true for entrepreneurs that have no international experience. For any businessman that has international experience, we are very alike to Europeans and Brazilians and Americans and Japanese businessmen. International businessmen are very alike in the whole world, and the differences are so little. But understanding that Brazilians are Latins, understand that there are some differences, as maybe little difference, but they probably can do a lot of different in the output if you pay attention to those differences. So look for Federação do Comércio for starter, and to some law specialists, embassy, and work for all the information, gather all the information. We are here to that too. Federação do Comércio has a lot of information, and if we don't have a lot of information for some issue, we can find who has the information. We have contacts, as I said, to all the branches of government, and gather all the information you have to gather to start a business in Brazil. That's my vision.
Great. Just to follow up, it's not just for Sao Paulo. Somebody can come to you and inquire from about Curitiba, or
Sure.
about Bahia, or
Sure.
investing in Rio.
Sure. For sure, if we have the information, we're gonna give the information, we're gonna try to help. But if we don't have the specific information about Bahia and construction law in Bahia, construction laws are from the cities in Brazil. It's not a federal, there's not a federal construction law, the city construction laws. We're gonna find someone in Bahia to help you. And that's a good point.
So thank you very much for that, Fabio. Excellent response, and puts a lot into perspective, a lot to consider, a lot of factors to take into account. Let me go to Dr. Saconeto. Dr. Saconeto, once again, I mean, same question. What are the entities that a business should contact to establish a business in anything that you would like to add? I know that Fabio did add an exhaustive, very comprehensive response, but is there anything that you would like to add?
Okay, thank you, Jorge. First of all, I would like to say something about a great advantage that we have here. We are completely free in terms of religion and cultural facts. People are free to profess any faith or any cultural aspects. I think it's a good advantage in terms of some of our competitors in the world. I think maybe the businessman must be prepared for some bureaucratic aspects. The government and the FecomercioSP are working to improve the business environment, but you have to improve a little bit more. So I think maybe this year we will have some good surprise. For example, in doing business indicator, the index of World Bank. We are working hard to change that. I think we have here one more reason to invest in Brazil right now, because things are changing in this aspect. And I would like to say that the FecomercioSP has a special group special branch of FeComércio to international companies. It's FeComércio Internacional. We have here Gian, we have here Natalia that work with this branch. And we offer a wide variety of services to foreign entrepreneurs in Brazil. For example, B2B virtual agendas. We can set virtual agendas with the public sector, with other entrepreneurs in Brazil, with some sector, with people that are interested in the products, and some. We can make a lot of agendas. We can set a lot of agendas. We do some market research, as Pina told us. We can make some special market research in some, I don't know, in some sectors. Market and business orientation, we can make also. We can provide, for example, market data and geo-reference. For example, I have some business and I want to invest in Brazil. What state is the better to do that? Maybe Bahia, maybe Rio Grande do Sul, maybe Amazonas, maybe São Paulo. And more important, to provide the needed services to start a new business. And if we can do that, we can, as Pina told, we can, for example, pass to other government sectors or other chambers. So it's just to contact us international. I think Gian and Natalia could write the email in the chat, and we can set a lot of things for the entrepreneurs from the United States that want to invest in Brazil. Okay.
Oh, great. I mean, I have to tell you, I mean, as you're answering the question and providing all this information, let me ask you, so that Federal it works as a membership organization? I mean, these are contributions of members, or this is a government-funded initiative?
No, it's totally private. We do that with our people here in FeComércio. We do that. We do the market research. We provide some numbers. We provide some economic scenarios, but it's totally private. We don't have any special fund from the government to that.
Amazing, but amazing services that you're indicating and that you're sharing with us. I mean, that in itself. It's worth it. Makes it worthwhile to become a member. Thank you. Let me go to Yoshi, and then let's go up with the next question. Is how has your chamber reinvented itself over the past year to serve your membership? I understand that obviously the global crisis with COVID puts us in a bind, very difficult times. Nevertheless, we are rising like a phoenix. Our businesses are ready to go, and that one of the reasons we're embarking on this initiative of the webinars, to reconnect our businesses, to energize and explore the new opportunities that the technologies are allowing us to explore. So, President Xi, how has the CAMACOL reinvented itself over the last year to serve its customers?
Well, as a chamber, what we have done is that we have, number one, we have found ways to connect more closely to our community, especially in times of crisis. There's a lot of businesses, small businesses especially, with a lot of necessities who have suffered quite a bit in our community. So in order to be able to deal with the small businesses in our community and some of the larger ones, which have also suffered as well, we have used a lot of our governmental contact and also a lot of our governmental relationship work in order to be able to help them through the governmental bureaucracy, as Andre was talking about. And this is especially important because many business people, they tend to disregard government, especially in a system such as ours in the United States. But the chamber has a ready source of capacity to deal with that relationship as well. The chamber has also, during this time, you have to remember that one of the things that flourished, or a couple of things that actually flourished during this pandemic time, were certain sectors of businesses. For example, your technology sector. As we are communicating now over Zoom, this Zoom and many other technologies flourish during this time. So one of the things that we have done at the chamber is that we started connecting more with our technological capabilities, especially during this time where our mayors have actually been inviting and promoting Miami as a technological center for the Americas by inviting and having quite a bit of success in inviting companies from Silicon Valley in California, Route 128, the technology center in Boston, and Silicon Alley over in New York. And then one of the things that we did at CAMACOL was we said, okay, this is fine. We have all this technology coming in, but at the same time, when they come here, I mean, they're not just coming over to Miami for the nice weather. They're coming here to see what capabilities we have in Miami. So one of the things that we did at the chamber was we started and reinforced our technological committee. The technological committee went on and started creating several technological oriented events. So for example, we just had one called Industry 4.0, which involved people as diverse as blockchain companies, blockchain institutes from Europe, and also groups of people from the United Nations, and also many people from Latin America as well too. And then at the same time, the following month, in 2 months from now, in June, we will be having a Ibero-America Congress on technological innovation, which will involve not only all of Latin America and the United States, but at the same time, it will involve Ibero-America, Europe, Portugal, and Spain. And by this, we pretend is that we will bring in our technologies from Ibero-America to be combined and to interact with the technology here in the United States. Because as we survive the pandemic through technology, we will also be prospering and at the same time coming out of the pandemic with technology as well too.
Well said. I second that, President Chi. This is just a sample. How we extending our friendship, our business relationship with our friends from Brazil, and I have to say that this is a very warm conversation, and this is just an indicator of what we can do together. And it would be amazing to see some initiatives coming out of this, which are already sensing and ready to propose a few after the webinar. Let me go to Fabio. Fabio, so how did the Federation of Businesses in Brazil reinvented itself over the past year? Obviously, this is a very challenging. It was a very challenging year. We're still in the midst of it. Having said that, we reinvented ourselves. We reinvented ourselves to help our members, to help our communities. How did the Federation do that? How did they help and serve their members over the past year?
I'm going to start answering something that I know Andre is not going to say out loud because he is very modest. We have a lot of partnerships with all the branches and the levels of government. And one of those is that Andre is leading. It's a partnership with the federal government for improving the Brazil doing business indexes. So that's the remark that I have to tell you.
Can I clarify? So are you referring to the World Bank?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, got it.
Federação do Comércio is the only private entity that has a partnership to help the government to write a bill. Actually, this bill is written down, and we need to pass that bill at the Congress right now to change a lot of aspects of doing business in Brazil. That's why we know that bill from the beginning to the end. So that's a thing that a remark that I couldn't let pass. For the question itself, it's impossible to update ourselves by our own. A lot of matters, a lot of teams that we have to deal. So it's impossible with a small group of people, a good group of people, but a small group of people to update in every and each matter. So we prefer to do it with partners, with specialists, with gathering all the information and the specialists that we can. We had a lot of councils. Actually, we started that prior to the pandemic problem. But it showed us that we were right. And in the pandemic, as Mr. Chai said, we enhanced that for technology, by technology, sure, by technology. And we created two extra chambers, one for e-commerce and the other one for startups in this period. But prior to that, we had specialized councils in ESG, economy, taxation, e-commerce, now e-commerce and startups, labor matters and problems. We have a council specialized on that, law specialists. So we have all these chambers, all these councils inside the Federação do Comércio that can deal with each and every matter to help with the best answer. That's how we reinvented ourselves. It's impossible to one Federação do Comércio to deal with all. It's not impossible, but it's expensive. It's beyond our possibilities. So with partnerships, we can do that and provide a very good service to everyone that look for us.
Very well. I mean, that's well received, very welcome, and you have the authority, you have the size, the presence to establish those partnerships in order to fulfill the needs and the expectations of the members and the community. It's just amazing work. When I heard you bringing up the example of interacting and drafting some piece of legislation, some new law in order to assist your business and your members. That's awesome. I commend you for that. Wonderful. Let me go to Dr. Saconato. I mean, anything that you would like to add in terms of reinventing the federation in the past year to service your members and your community?
Oh, of course. The Fabio answer is incontestably complete. I think I would like to add just one comment. Brazil has an important issue to solve. We are very close to the international trade. We are very close in terms of tax, in terms of quotas, in terms of, I think the lobby from some companies, from some Brazil companies, was always very strong in this sense. And FecomercioSP is working hard to take these restrictions off, working hard. We believe in the free trade. We believe in the freedom in general. So we are working so hard with Brazilian government that have a liberal side, the economic ministry is liberal in terms of economic liberal, pro-market, not in terms of political. But we are working so hard to change that, and I think as in the case of doing business, we have some good surprise until the end of this year. And you have a lot of companies being concessioned. It's not a privatization, but it's a concession. So we have a lot of opportunities in this sense. And I think if Fabio talked about doing business, that our concern about. So we are working so hard in these two ways to getting better in terms of to do business. This problem of to be very close to international trade, and some problems in bureaucracy, and some problems in to create a new company and to have some documents to the new company and so on. So I can complete. We are the FeComércio Internacional can help the companies in these ways, in the short ways to do. And the Brazilian government offers a lot of facilities to foreign entrepreneurs to enter here. So we can help the foreign entrepreneurs to take advantage of these advantages. So I think it's important to say that, because in financial investment or even in FDI, the government offers a lot of advantage to foreign companies.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Let me move to Mr. Chi, President of CAMACOL, and let me go with the following question. What trends and business opportunities are projected in your country? How does your chamber support or will support its members to stay competitive in a new global economy?
Okay, from the local point of view, as you know, Miami is very much dependent upon international trade, and it has been dependent for a long time. Initially, during the pandemic, our ports suffered, but then it was international trade that actually came to the rescue. It was our trade that we had with Europe, and at the same time with Turkey, which is an initiative that CAMACOL started about 10 years ago with a port, and they finally acknowledge and appreciate our efforts from 10 years ago. But that's another story. What I would like to say is that being an internationally oriented city, Miami, one of the things that I urge all of our partners down in Brazil and the rest of Latin America is that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity coming out of the pandemic, that we need to come together and we need to see what can be done for the benefit of not only the United States, but also for the benefit of the rest of Latin America as well. I understand that many parts of Latin America, because of the United States preoccupation with the situation in the Middle East, and now with the situation in Asia and China, the United States has not paid the necessary attention that they should have to Latin America. But there's a wake-up call, and the wake-up call happened in December of last year, 2020. There was a trade pact that was formed called RCEP in Asia, a regional comprehensive economic pact of 15 Asian nations, which includes China, Japan, and a lot of different countries. And what happened was that they formed the largest economic trade pact in the world. Now, what I'm asking ourselves is, why are we not able to do something similar in this region of the world? For example, with the trade pact that was formed approximately back in around 1995 with the NAFTA, and later on became under President Trump, became the USMCA. I mean, over $1 trillion in business was generated during that period of time. Now, if we were to get our heads together and coming out of this pandemic and seeing that we all need each other, why don't we come together and somehow reignite that spirit of cooperation in the Americas, so that moving forward, we will come out of this pandemic much stronger, much more capable, and much more unified than before. And that's what I would like to put on the table.
Wow, that was excellent, Joe Chi. You let me know when you run for office, I will vote for you, right? I mean, my vote goes for you. I mean, that's an awesome, awesome proposition. I mean, I couldn't second. I'm so enthusiastic when I hear that because the commonalities, the similarities among markets, among people, among culture, among economies are such that we can blend in so easily, and there's so many opportunities for collaboration and business collaboration, as you indicated. Let me pose the same question to Dr. Saconato. Dr. Saconato, what trends and business opportunities are projected in your country? How does your federation will support its members to remain competitive in a new global economy, the post-pandemic economy?
Mhm. Jorge, I think Brazil has a large domestic market and a low per capita income. If we really have a long cycle of commodities and a responsible government, the surplus in this sector can finance a huge leap in productivity in other sectors, for example. I think this phenomenon may also, for example, generate momentum in sectors where Brazil has a great potential, as I said in the first question, service and tourism. The devaluated of the real, our currency, and the country in full recovery, I think offer opportunities both on financial side and the investments in production. I think this is how I said in the first question, this is the best moment to invest in Brazil. Because Brazil is the best moment to receive investments in order to take advantage of this future growth. Wherever gets there first, we'll get better results, we get a better profits. So I think it's the best moment to do that. And the entrepreneurs that want to come to Brazil must count on FeComércio to do everything they need to invest and to open a company. We are disposable just for that in FeComércio Internacional. So it's just to send an email. We can really help the entrepreneur, the foreign entrepreneur, to enter Brazil and to invest in Brazil.
Awesome. So tell me, and when you were answering the first question in terms of the competitive advantages of Brazil, you mentioned about tourism. You also spoke about education. You spoke about the three main universities, although there's many more. The network in terms of higher ed is much larger than that. But you have three high-ranking higher ed institutions in Sao Paulo. So what about technology? I mean, for the longest, I had heard that in many instances, you experience a large, and you spoke, and Fabio also spoke about the quality, the high-skilled labor that you have in Brazil. So tell me a little bit about the high-tech industry, and tell me about the different professionals you have available, like programmers and computer scientists, software developers, and so forth.
Okay. We have a problem here in terms of high-skilled workers. Brazil always has to think about urgent things, and it's difficult to think in important things. We have the urgent before the important. We have problems with macroeconomics, we have problems with exchange rates, we have problems with inflation. But now is the time to think about things that is important and not urgent. We are relatively stable in terms of inflation. in terms of other macroeconomic variables. So now it's the time to think about important themes, important issues. So we will need a lot of high-skilled workers in the next years. We don't have a supply of high-skilled workers from Brazil's universities. We have some, but we need, and we will need a lot of new universities. We are creating a university here in São Paulo to simulate, between commas, to simulate the MIT, for example, MIT education. It's totally private, the private sector, but we need more and more universities here. I think it's a good sector to invest in Brazil. Universities with quality, universities in engineering, universities in IT, and in this, and medicine universities. We have a lot of economic. It's not a good thing to say because I'm an economist, but you have a lot of universities of economics, of business, but you don't have a lot of universities in technology sector, for example. So it's
I like your proposition at the FIU parenthesis MIT in Brazil. So I like that. So an idea that we can explore. Well, what about the health industry?
The health industry.
Yes.
We are in a special situation in this kind of industry because of the pandemic, because of a lot of things. It's a special how can I say? It's a special moment.
Yes. It's a special situation that you are in, but you see that and I'm asking these questions because I mean every statistic, every comment that you share with us, you know, I know that our business students, I know that our entrepreneurs are listening and determining, you know, what kind of opportunities are there. Like you mentioning that there's an opportunity for a higher ed industry, but are your current higher ed institutions graduating enough nurses, let's say?
Yes. Yes, we have in Brazil. I don't know if you know. We have in Brazil a lot of people from the United States that comes here to use our hospitals because it's good and it's relatively cheap. So you have two hospitals here in São Paulo, Albert Einstein and Sírio-Libanês, that I don't know, 20% of the patients comes from other countries. Okay. So you have a huge potential in the sector. And we don't have a lot of schools of medicine that have the same level that we need to these hospitals or other hospitals that can supply these services. So I think that we have two opportunities in this sector: the educational opportunities and the business opportunity in this sector to invest in hospitals, to invest in health, in exams, and so on.
So interesting what you're saying, because I mean, whether it's formal or informal, it seems like there is a demand for healthcare tourism already developing in Brazil, and maybe from Florida, from the rest of the U.S., but it's something that for sure anybody that is listening and paying attention, that they can align to those trends. And it's not just the healthcare per se. Maybe that is just the traveling, or maybe any additional services that go along with it.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes, it's true.
Very much for the response. I mean, not to make it harder on you, Fabio, is there anything else that you would like to add to?
If I may, in STEAM areas, as the prior question, we lack professionals. Not because we don't have information, but we don't have the numbers. And we're growing in a very fast pace. For instance, we have more than 250 million smartphones working in Brazil. It's more than the population. and we are very well known for using these hours and hours in social media, in cell phones, smartphones, and so the e-commerce is growing in a fast pace. We need to have more courses on STEAM areas. India and Singapore are known for tech cities. We don't have such a place, a tech city, but if you, as Andre told before, if you, we don't have a wall built around a tech city, but if you build a wall around Campinas, São José dos Campos, and São Paulo, with 3 or 4 of the best STEAM courses, STEAM universities in the world, ITA is a military for aeronautics. We have Embraer just because of ITA. University of São Paulo and Unicamp in Campinas. If you have a wall around those places, it would be a very similar thing as a tech city, a huge tech city of 100 kilometers wide. So this is for the STEAM area. For the health sector, 50% of the population in Brazil have to pay for health insurance because the public system is good compared to a lot of places. It's costly, but it's good. But it's impossible to help all the people in Brazil, 210 million people. So more than 50%, 110 million people buy health insurance at an expensive rate. It's very expensive to have a health insurance in Brazil. So this is an opportunity because this sector is very little populated by entrepreneurs. So the companies that provide these services are doing very, very well in Brazil. High taxes for sure, but the profits are really, really good because of this. We have 50% of our population looking for these services, and little or 6, 10, 20 companies at the most dealing with all this demand. And adding a little bit of flavor, trying to do that. We are primarily dealing in Brazil to reconstruct our business environment, as I told before. We know the 10 dimensions, actually Andre knows the 10 dimensions going to 12 dimensions of the doing business indexes. We use that as a conductor. We know what we need to improve. Actually, I told, we wrote from top to begin to end, to the bottom, the bill. So we know what we need to do. We need to pass right now. And we know how things work right now. We can help right now, and probably we can help a little better if the bill passes, because we know what the bill means. Locally, São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro are the spots for doing business. So we have to improve here. The first experience with the changes are going to help in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. We have the privatization. Now, 40 years after Chile asking people from Chicago to help, we're having a Chicago boy dealing with the economic in Brazil. It's 40 years later, but it's never too late. Brazil has 210 million, as I always say, people, and a huge market. Infrastructure, as I told before. We have a pro-business economy secretary, we call minister, but it's secretary, Paulo from Chicago, as I told. So we must, with all these reforms, with all this new, the rule of law, trying to understand the common law, making a business environment better, it's impossible not to increase the growth rate of Brazil. So that's why I think we have a lot of complementary with the United States and a lot of opportunities for all kinds of sectors, mostly services, tourism, and commerce in Brazil, and technological for sure. And as André told, we lack professionals in STEAM. And that's really hard because we don't have a law that enforces to import people with that knowledge. We're trying to make it better because we lack 30 to 40,000 people each year in this area.
So for anybody, any of our students that are listening to this and they would like to perhaps have an early experience, work experience after finishing their bachelor's, I mean, Brazil will be a welcoming market,
Sure.
which is awesome to hear. Fabio, besides Sao Paulo, Rio, what other cities would you recommend, consider to take into account? I know that Brazil is huge, but maybe 3 or 4 or 5 other ones. I mean, you tell us. Besides the ones
it depends on the scale that you're thinking about and what kind of business you have. For instance, if you have a small businesses and you have to try to start exploring Brazil, I would say São Paulo, Rio, and the big cities would make it easier for you. If you have a scale that is really huge, you can probably have a branch in São Paulo, a branch in the south, Porto Alegre, Curitiba, a branch in Northeast, Bahia, Salvador, or Recife, and even a branch in the north part of Brazil, Belém do Pará, and in the Central West, in Brasilia, for instance, for the central part of Brazil. It depends on what you're thinking about. We have probably a dozen of cities with more than 1 million people. As I told before, your business is local, it's trying to reach only locally, some parts of Brazil, it's trying to reach a whole, it's a mass product that you're selling, investing in infrastructure in one area, in one place, or in whole Brazil. It's very common to see companies that, infrastructure companies, that they have ports, airports, trains, roads, highways, so they can reach the whole Brazil area. Others trying to sell only to rich people. So there are neighbors in São Paulo, neighborhoods in Salvador, neighborhoods in Rio. It's each and every case. You can study one by one.
Yes, go ahead.
Just to add to Fabio, we have some cities that are trying to developing some specific sectors. For example, Florianópolis, that is an island in Santa Catarina, is so beautiful. They have 42 beautiful beaches there, and it's a beautiful place to do. They are trying to invest in, how can I say, high technology companies. It's a kind of a Silicon Valley in Brazil. They are trying to do that. And Ribeirão Preto, it's an island, it's a city in São Paulo island, in the countryside. They are developing some agro-industry sectors. They are so rich. We call them here California Brasileira. It's a Brazilian California. It's because it's the same structure. So we have some specific polos of hubs of some specific business that you can reach if you want to invest in a specific sector. Again, we can help the entrepreneurs that want to reach these cities, want to know what's the best place to do, the geo-reference. We can help it because it's difficult to know, because Brazil is so big. We have 27 states, and it's difficult to, but we can help because we have some specific cities investing in specific sectors.
Awesome. Before I go to our last round, to offer you a few minutes for you to make your closing remarks, let me go to Fabio. Fabio, here in the U.S., we're embarking, becoming very sensitive in terms of our business models to incorporate an element of of diversity and social inclusion. I understand clearly. I mean, because I've been trying. I had the privilege of being in Brazil a couple of times. Tell me a little bit about diversity in Brazil.
Well, fortunately you asked me that. We have a council. We're actually building this council right now in Federação do Comércio of ESG. We have a council that is concerned about environment since I guess 1990. But right now we were trying to enhance that to an ESG council. And we have a research, a poll we did weeks ago, asking people about the importance of responsibility of the companies. And 50% of the consumers said that they always paid attention to that prior the pandemic problem. And right now, 75% of the people, of the consumers, are paying attention for the company behaviors. So it's inescapable for the business that we deal with that. And as André told, Brazil has no religion problems, no race problems. Thank God we don't have those problems. Of course, as a country, 210 million people, we got our idiots around the country. But this is not our culture. Our culture is very open-minded. We thank God we lack bad experiences to that, and we're growing deeper into this ESG preoccupation. And the company and the consumers, 75%, 3 in each 4 consumers are concerned about what are the company's policies on those matters, on those 3-dimensional matters. So we have a really promising environment for that in Brazil. And even though we have I guess right now we have the better, for instance, the better energy pool. It's the cleanest energy around the world, and we don't know how to sell that for the world. We don't know how to communicate that. If you want to reduce your carbon step, buy Brazilian. Because we use the cleanest energy to produce in the world, much more than China, than the US, much more so. If you really are concerned with that, you can buy Brazil, and you're doing a lot of good for the environment. We don't know how to communicate that very well. So we have a lot of space to grow, but we are concerned about that, and Federação do Comércio has a council to deal with all those aspects.
Excellent. I know that you have the 2nd largest Japanese descendant population in the world after Japan, and then you also have a strong presence of Middle Easterners and also Ukrainians in South Brazil, in Curitiba.
In São Paulo, we have a lot of Ukrainians. We have a city called Nova Odessa, right beside the city called Americana, which was formed by Americans. We got Soviets and Americans right together.
Amazing. And as we say here in America, we run out of time because we're having so much fun. But I'm sorry, Andre, you want to say something else?
Just a curiosity. We have some cities in Santa Catarina that the first language is German. The second language is Portuguese. We are with some Germans here in Brazil, and we take them in the Pomerode, that's a city in Santa Catarina. And the people that are working to cleaning the streets talk in German with them, these guys. And they like, my gosh, what? The people that are cleaning the streets, that works cleaning the streets, talks in German, because the first language is German. And the school, the state school there has two languages. The first one in German, the second one is Portuguese.
Wonderful,
So-
wonderful. Let me start with my closing remarks, and then I will grant a minute and a half to each of the panelists to say goodbye to our audience. With that, I want to thank our commissioner, dear friend, co-worker, partner in crime, Mr. Willie Gort. Thank you very much from CAMACOL. President Chi, thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to Mrs. Ponce, which is my boss. Is my AVP, and she allows us to open our arms and collaborate with CAMACOL in this initiative. Also, I want to thank our team, Melissa Maldonado, Danay Baratas, Shereen Smith. Without their assistance, their support, their initiative, the energy, this wouldn't be a surprise. Also want to thank the team from CAMACOL, Estefania Laredo, Rosalba Cepeda, Joe Chi, Willie Gord. Thank you very much for all your support and for envisioning coming together to provide this opportunity to our students, our businesses that will benefit from these collaborations for this startup in terms of expanding communications and open arms to new opportunities. Also, please, I want to remind you that there are a couple more webinars coming with a couple other countries where we'll share with you some more information regarding. We have one scheduled for June 10th. The topic will be, this is in English, by the way, in Spanish. This is Testamentos, Fideicomisos y Protección de Activos, which is, focusing on inheritance and state, how, so we're going to have a lawyer talking to us about this initiative, and our lawyer is going to be, the instructor lawyer will be Elena Ortega Toller. This webinar will be in Spanish from noon to 1 p.m. But then we have two other ones that we're partnering with CAMACOL also, that we're on the works. Please stay tuned. It will be Uruguay, Paraguay, Colombia, and then we have another one with Mexico and a few other countries from Central America. Well, please answer the survey and leave us your contact information so we can reach out to you. With that, let me pass it on to my also colleague, partner in crime, President Chi. 1 minute for your closing remarks.
Very simple, what I have to say. While Fabio and Andre were talking, I was busy preparing our mission to go back to Brazil. Basically, there's a lot of things that we can do coming over to Brazil. One of the things, for example, they say that they lack high-tech personnel in Brazil. I'd like to say that FIU, your institution, is actually one of the largest producers of programmers in the country. A lot of them which went over to Silicon Valley to work in those companies and create those enterprises. And one of those enterprises was actually created by a Miami person. His name was Jeff Bezos, called Amazon, richest man in the world. So Miami has a lot to offer to Brazil. At the same time, in the healthcare sector, we have some of the most prepared and the most technically qualified health management companies in the world, health management organization, HMOs. The HMO concept was practically created or invented here in Miami by a Cuban called Benjamin Leon, who is also one of the founders of CAMACOL. We'd like to take this over to Brazil as well. And then another thing that Andres talked about, which I found very important, which I believe the United States has paid very little attention to, is the long-term commodity cycle. Long-term commodity cycle is very important because it is part of the materials that go into our industrial supply chains. Yesterday, I was hearing that the companies in southern China, a lot of them had to shut down production because their material costs started going up too high. They couldn't get enough steel. Brazil has one of the biggest steel mining companies in the world, Vale. We need to work on that issue as well. Also, talking about the world economy, as the United States is busy producing economic stimulus, this is bound to produce inflation at some point. This inflation will directly benefit the long-term economic cycle, which is going on in Brazil right now. So we're ready to go to Brazil, and we're ready to deal.
Awesome, wonderful. Let me go to Mr. Pina, después Dr. Saconato, we end up with our dear friend, Mr. Gort. Fabio?
Despite some American companies didn't pay attention to some of aspects of the consumer behavior in Brazil, as I told, Walmart, for instance, the wholesale and retail thing. Despite that, our culture is very similar. I don't understand that because it's for me, it's very hard to understand Europeans, much harder to understand Japanese than Americans. It's very, very similar. We're very open to American culture. We think that it's very easy to understand American way. So despite that, some mistakes, there is no culture battle between Americans and Brazilians, or no awkwardness between our cultures. So you have to just pay attention for the details. It's very easy. We're here to help on that. It's just the detail. The rest, we had a lot of common ground. Just pay attention for the details, and we're gonna do a lot of business, I'm sure.
Thank you, Fabio Pina. Thank you. Let's go to Dr. Andres Saconato for his final words to our audience.
Oh, thank you, Jorge. I insist on having a lunch with you when you come to Brazil, President Chi, Willie, and Jorge.
Pleasure.
With caipirinha and feijoada.
Yeah.
You have we have to eat some Brazilian food. That's delicious. It will be a pleasure to us to receive you here. And
rodizio.
Rodizio, wow, I love. I prefer rodizio than feijoada. Yeah, yes.
Both.
Deal.
Deal.
And my favorite foods are in the extremes. It's sushi and rodizio, two extremes of the. And I would like to thank you the opportunity to talk about Brazil. We are available to talk about Brazil when you need. We can talk about macroeconomic aspects that we don't have much time to do that. We are available to that. We like to talk about Brazil, me and Fabio. And it's so important to have this channel to present the good things that you have here. Thank you very much, Jorge. Thank you, Willie. Thank you, Chi. Thank you, Mili, Stefania, Dana, Rosalba, everybody. Thank you, Jean and Natalia that help us with that. And Ana Paula, that is that, and Cherima also. Thank you for this opportunity.
I was very unpolite. Thank you for everyone here.
Thank you. Let's close with a golden seal, and let's close with our dear friend, colleague, Willie Gort.
Thank you. Once again, I think this is the type of information so important. We have learned so much about Brazil and the opportunity, and I can think that a lot of things that could happen in Brazil is a lot of joint ventures, because a lot of small businesses, both here in the United States and in Latin America, they don't have the capital, enough capital to do major projects. But if they do joint ventures, they'll be able to do so. Like the 3P coming up, I don't know how much 3Ps, which is public-private partnership, is so important to have the joint venture in those countries. If we let the chamber know any project that's going to come out on the 3P, and those companies that are not large enough, they can join venture with companies here in the United States to do so and apply for it and be successful. But thank you all for all this information.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Willie Gort. Thank you to all. It's been an honor and a privilege to have such a distinguished panelist talking to us about Brazil. Today, I'm talking to you from the FIU Southwest Campus. On my right, I have the International Pavilion with all the flags of the world. And behind me, I have the main library. And you can see the FIU. I spent many years in the 7th floor of that library. But this is our campus, and this is an extending an invitation to Fabio, to Andre, and to your team. I have Jean-Claude, thank you, Ana Paula, and also Natalia Taffarello. At one point in time, we would like you to host you down here at FIU with Yoshi and Willie Gort and our team here at FIU, and also the CAMACOL team. Thank you very much, all. It's been an honor and a pleasure again, and thank you all to all the audience, for students and business owners, for joining us today. Take care, and we'll see you in the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.